Team Logan Huntsberger. Jess is way better. Dean, Paul, Tristan. Yay for neutral opinions. Just kidding. Totally not a neutral opinion. Good morning, beautiful people. Today we are going to be talking about the Gilmore guys of Rory Gilmore. Grab your coffee and let's get started. The most concise way that I could think to do it was to have each individual guy kind of by season, but mainly by their individual storyline. First, let's talk about Dean. Also, for the sake of this discussion, when we're thinking about each of the Gilmore guys, try to think of them in the season. Like, I know we know the full layout story of each of these characters, but in season 1, I really liked Dean. It's crazy for me to think that we meet him in episode 1. Also, he wasn't the first Dean cast, but the chemistry between Alexis Bledel and Jerry Padalecki is so much better in my opinion. Sorry for the previous actor, but so much better in my opinion than what they first cast Dean as. One of the things I actually really appreciated about Dean in season 1 is that he's also very innocent, just like Rory's innocent. They have a very sweet first dating relationship. Now, Dean has dated somebody in the past that Lane finds out, but from what I can remember, the first time that we see Dean be, I guess for us at the time, out of character would have been when he says, "I love you," and she says, "I love the car," and he gets really frustrated. Now, there is the side of that I'm sure was the embarrassment side of that, the vulnerability side of that, just kind of like putting yourself out there and then hearing, "I love the car," like would be crushing, but obviously he doesn't handle it in a very mature way. But then also, he's what, like 16? We're looking at a kid being like, "Why aren't you handling this well?" But how did you handle stuff like that when you were 16? I totally just remembered that the first time we see Dean be like aggressive and a little odd was not when he told Rory that he loved her, but Tristan in episode, I think it was 9, when they go to the dance and Tristan's very like, "Oh, Rory," Dean gets really mad. So, correction to my previous self. One of my favorite Rory and Dean moments in season 1 is when Dean makes something for Rory. The time and effort that he puts into making that for her, I found very sweet. I also love that she's so excited about it. It's such like a pure little gift moment that they have, which also is interesting when we're going to go into like the later seasons of everything. But I think that's my favorite moment of Rory and Dean. Putting our brains back into the time period of watching season 1, the ending when Rory says, "I love you, you idiot," and they get back together and it's so exciting. I remember being like, "Yay, they're back together." And then season 2 happens. In my opinion, Dean's character starts to like really downslide when it comes to, I don't know, just being like confident in himself, being confident in the relationship. There's certain aspects of it though where it's like if you see your significant other looks like they're flirting with somebody and they're spending a bunch of time with somebody else and you're just like, "Hey, like, aren't we in the relationship, not you and them?" Like, I get why he's frustrated, honestly. Now, I don't think he handles it very well. But again, he's a teenager. Also, you can be a mature teenager and I don't think he is that. So I'm not gonna like completely write off all of his poor handling of situations just because of his age, because again, you can be mature no matter the age. But I get where he's frustrated. I don't get why he takes it to the level that he does, and he just like gets really angry like out of nowhere. I don't like that the character goes from like very kind of normal to like really mad. A really good example of this is from episode to episode how quickly everything changes. Like, Dean is so mad that Rory is in a school project with Tristan that she didn't even choose to be in with Tristan. It was something the teacher told her to do. But then the next episode, he's like, "Here's a car, I love you so much." And then when the car gets in an accident, well, obviously like with Rory and Jess, which not great on Rory's part if she's trying to stay in a relationship with Dean to like be hanging out with Jess so much. But he just gets so mad again. And it's like, okay, that was an accident. Like, it's in the name. It's a car accident. Jess wasn't trying to do that. Thinking of it from Dean's perspective, I get why he's mad that the car accident happens. I just don't get why he takes it to the level that he does. And I think that's kind of like the definition of Dean's character for me is like, why are you going that far with it? Actually, it's season 3 when Dean and Rory break up. There's so many details in this. It's just like the same story as season 2 kind of for me. Like season 1 Dean, I liked. Season 2 Dean, I was like, okay, I can kind of see why he's frustrated. Season 3 Dean is like also, again, hot and cold with things of like, "No, I don't like you. Okay, well now let's be friends." And like, it's nice that I don't have to control myself around you anymore when he's talking to Jess when Jess is like taking out the trash. And it's like, I guess in that moment, I don't feel like Jess deserved it. Now overall, Jess also saw the fact that Rory was in a relationship and still was like, "Ooh, I want to be in a relationship with her," which I don't personally like. I feel like respect a relationship, but also like nobody respects relationships, I feel like, pretty much in Rory's world of dating, because then in the next season, Rory just goes after a married guy. Like, you can't just be like, oh, he was mine first. No, absolutely not. Excuse me. No. Also, Dean has a huge problem, clearly, with boundaries. On the bachelor party, you're like, Rory, it's like, why are you getting married? Why are you doing this? Why aren't you just single right now? If you're pining that much for somebody that you used to date, you shouldn't be getting married. Makes me so mad. Also, it makes me mad, and we'll get to this when I talk about Lorelai, but it makes me mad because that episode, I loved finally seeing Lorelai and Luke get together, and then I feel like it's so freaking tarnished because Rory just sleeps with a married guy. Like, the writers made me so mad. And then finally, Dean's last season is season 5. I can't believe this character makes it from season 1 to season 5, where now he's like back to living with his family and he's working at Dosey's. It's just, I think the thing probably truthfully for me with the character of Dean is that once again, we see him like basically like, if this is like good, we see him like good, going to college, getting married, and then just once again falls off a cliff. Like, if you're pining for somebody, don't get married. If you want to go to college, then go to college. If you don't want to go to college, that's also fine. But like, there's so much hope for this character and so much he could do in the future. And then it's just, but technically we see him in the reboot, but we're not really super talking about that in this because not my favorite. So, I don't know. Moving on. I'm interested to see what you think about it. Next up is not Jess. Believe it or not, we meet Tristan in episode 2. Tristan is a character, in my opinion, with the amount of buildup that you think he would kind of be the Jess, but then he just disappears, aka gets his own show.
Oh my God! What is that?
He calls her Mary, the nickname that he gives because she's so like innocent and pure. I never heard of that as a nickname. I don't know if that was like a real thing that happened. Lorelai acts as if it does, but I don't know. But clearly Tristan likes Rory. This is a theme that we see pretty much throughout the entire show, except for one of the Gilmore guys. Pretty much everybody likes Rory. Tristan doesn't know how to handle that. He doesn't know how to basically regulate emotions. And then once again, him and Dean get into it at the dance because he's poking at everything. And then he basically, like, Tristan, the guy who pokes at everybody's emotions, insert last name here, is the character arc in its totality. Like, the only, I guess, vulnerable moment that we see of Tristan is after he breaks up with his girlfriend, or she breaks up with him at the dance, and then Rory and him kiss, but then Rory like cries and runs away, and it's like, okay, well, that's not really the response that you want from a kiss. He also tries to like bribe her with tickets. I don't know. He like clearly doesn't know how to do things with women who don't want to date him. From what I can pretty much tell of the show, like, Rory never really wanted to date Tristan. She just kind of used him as like this like kind of backup guy at one point. It just, again, not healthy. Not a thing to emulate. That's all we get of Tristan. Now let's talk about Jess. I've heard people say that at the beginning, Jess didn't deserve Rory, and then at the end, Rory didn't deserve Jess. I think that is the perfect definition of this confusing back and forth style relationship. The reason in and of itself that Jess even comes to Stars Hollow is because his mother has no idea what to do with him and sends him to his uncle, who also has no idea what to do with him, who asks for Lorelai's help, and she doesn't have an idea what to do with him. So he's just a troubled kid. I do think that they create a much better dynamic in what the character's like, much more so than Rory and Dean. They kind of try to do that in like the first season. They like tell about how Dean's reading something, but you like never hear about him reading again. Whereas Jess reads, I would say, probably just as much as Rory does. And I think that's really what we are supposed to believe of Jess and Rory's relationship, is that they have a lot more of a clear connection than Rory does with Dean. Rory and Jess's relationship starting, as that's kind of the reason for the relationship of Rory and Dean declining, is really tricky. If you ask me about how like what's the future for this relationship? What does that look like? The fact that she basically emotionally cheated on Dean with Jess, does that set up a firm foundation for their relationship? And even like lying throughout in the Jess saga of the full series is very much so a part of it, where like he doesn't tell her about the Swan incident, like again for pride thing, but tells her it's a football. Just tell her it's a swan. Like, I don't get why you felt like you had to lie to her about that. And then her later in the season, because she's mad at Logan, not that season, but like seasons, because she's mad at Logan, she goes to see Jess and then kisses Jess. It's just, it's not healthy. It's just not. Oh, and even Rory kissing Jess. I believe it's for the first time when she's like, don't tell anybody, and then she's at the wedding and then she just like runs away. Like, what are you doing? Now, kind of similar to Emily Personally, Jess is actually one of my favorite characters in the reboot. I think we see him grow as a character. Now we'll get to Logan, but I would say pretty much like before the end of the entirety of the series and the reboot, I probably would have said Logan grew the most, even though we see Jess grow. We just saw like one snippet, and how much can you really gain from one snippet? But we see Logan's progression of growth until, again, the reboot. But taking the reboot into consideration, I just like Jess the best, for sure. He's like the strongest when it comes to like a character. He has the most, I don't know, like stability, which I think is really important for Rory, especially because she's floundering so much. He still truly cares for her. You see like longing looks, which is like another of the phrases you could use for the entirety of the series. But I think that the relationship makes more sense than Dean. It makes a little, I guess potentially like a little crossover between Luke and Lorelai, which I think that would be kind of an interesting dynamic of like your mother and her husband, his nephew, is your significant other. Like, I don't know, that just seems like a confusing thing to explain to people, but at least Stars Hollow would all like know about it already because everybody's still there. In totality, I wish we had seen more, like even in the reboot, I wish we had seen more of him because again, I think it just shows that somebody can come from like a kind of like a troubled past, I guess, like not feeling known or seen. I don't know, he like has a goal that he kind of figures out along the way. Whereas I feel like with Rory, she has a goal and then she just stumbles at it along the way. Whereas he kind of inspired by her at the beginning, like the early stages of Rory, actually accomplishes something, whereas she kind of pulls the wings of early Rory and then just like one person says she's not good and she just like crumbles. Taking the character season by season, walking it through, I think that Jess grows. I think that he matures. I think that he starts accomplishing goals. I don't like that, again, like he lies a lot at the beginning figuring it out, like even to Luke about school, about prom, about Walmart, just like so much lying is happening. Whereas I feel like if he had just been honest and been like, maybe not with high school itself, but like with college or anything like that, like I don't know what I want to do here or what that looks like, but like work with me to figure this out, as opposed to like, it's fine, I'll just lie to everybody because I'm like the James Dean character. I think it would have worked out better actually for Jess if he had just been honest. But I do like Jess. Next up is season 4 / Sad Rory. I say Sad Rory because I've heard people start to describe season 4 Rory as Sad Rory, and I would agree. The thing I like about Rory in this season is that they show different aspects of dating as opposed to just kind of what we've seen from the character all along, and it's kind of more of like a real depiction of what could happen in college, where you have like guy friends, and of course Rory's ends up liking her, which doesn't happen all the time. She also has like an awkward date with a guy named Trevor, which I also appreciated, that like she's unsure of how to do that because she's all, even Lorelai says it in that episode of like, she's just kind of had guys laid out in front of her before that of like, they're in town and they like her and ta-da, that's the end. Whereas this, she's trying to figure out how to date and she goes like on an awkward date and then that doesn't work out. And then at the end of that episode, she asks a guy out in the laundry room and then she thinks he's talking about her. And I just appreciate that they show that side of the clunkiness of dating. The aspect that I don't like of it is kind of like Marty's storyline. I wish that Marty had just liked Rory as a friend, and I think that would have been a much better storyline because it would have been nice to see just a regular guy-girl friendship. But I appreciate season 4 Sad Rory in that she's trying to figure out dating, not in that she's always moody all the time and like chicken or beef episode and she's like, why aren't you getting married? And then we're finally at the last of the big 3, I would say, in Rory's life. Logan Huntsberger. At the beginning, did I like Logan? Well, one, he was very quick-witted. I would almost argue potentially more quick-witted than Jess. Logan also has the newspaper side of things that is a connection. They understand the same type of like world, which I don't think is obviously necessary for a relationship, but I think for Rory in college, there's an entire episode when she meets his family called like, But I'm a Gilmore, and like clearly that's important to her as a character. At first we meet Logan and he's very quick-witted. He's got like funny, quirky, like weirdo friends, and I will say Life and Death Brigade, while I don't like like potential dangerous type of stunts. I don't really like secret society type things like that either. I really don't like the dancing thing in the reboot. I feel like, why are we dancing? Why are there birds talking? Like, this wasn't in the series at all. But I did think that You Jumped, I Jumped Jack, that's my favorite episode because I thought it was very cool. Who doesn't want to go on like there's literally things that you can book that like fun, very extravagant type of like tents and stuff like that, and that part of it seemed fun to me. I also like that he clearly is, I would almost say, like gifted in writing and journalism and in that field. And I wouldn't necessarily say that because of like his father, but because of the way that Doyle describes him when he's like, he's such a slacker, he never comes, but when he like happens to put a story in, it's like such a great one that it has to go in the newspaper. I will say again, in the writing, I think it's very like well-rounded. I like that they give reasons behind things. Clearly Logan's family history is really messed up and not like a healthy one. Clearly there's a lot of pressure on him, even from what his grandpa says. Like, I get his like glitching there. I also like that he comes back later and is like, hey, I'm sorry that I glitched. Let's go get dinner. I don't like the back and forth of it, but also he's learning what a boyfriend is. He's never done that before. So, and I don't think he had a good example of it, clearly. Aspects of Logan that I don't love is like, why are you stealing things? Don't steal a boat. That's like such a stupid idea. Don't just go jump off cliffs and do all of these things. Clearly, like the disposable income and the amount that his family just like gives them money, just not healthy. Why is your kid has so much money in college? Like, shouldn't he be like studying and doing things? Why is he off life and death brigading all the time? That's not funny. It's not mature. It's not good. Clearly his friends also don't have like solid backgrounds and aren't solid people, but they do have a cool party. But also I don't like that he gets like super jealous of Rory. Forgot about that. I guess that's technically another one of like a rando person that Rory goes on a date with, but like you can't show up with a different person and get mad that Rory's showing up with a different person because you said that you were casually dating and now you're mad about it. And a little hypocritical, not gonna lie. We see like an up and down swing in Logan's character of, I'm not doing well, now I'm in London, I'm figuring it out, I'm doing well, I'm gonna really do this business thing really well. Oh no, that didn't work out. Now I'm at the bottom. Now I'm just gonna hang out with my friends. Okay, well now I'm starting to get better again. I think for me it was really disappointing to see the reboot of Logan because I feel like they totally, I can't remember who it is. If I can remember it, I'll put the clip here, or not the clip, the comment here. But somebody said that like he's supposed to be her Christopher and like Jess is supposed to be her Luke. And I think that they totally did that with characters. And I don't know if that was like the original intent with it, because I don't think we really saw that until the reboot. Because Logan was like a pretty good guy at the end. He was trying to figure it out. It really bugs me that like four episodes before the last episode, Rory brings him to Stars Hollow and they walk around and they're having like a lovely day and they're making jokes and they're doing everything like the hay bale maids and all of that. Like you take somebody that's going to be potentially a significant other back to your hometown. And I guess he was the only one that like wasn't from it. So there's no reason to take like Dean or Jess or anybody back there. But why take somebody back to hometown and then just totally say, no, I don't want to date you, and like change your character in the last episode? I've heard that it's because they didn't want a wedding as the last episode, which then it's kind of ironic because they have Luke and Lorelai get married in like, again, another musical thing as like the last episode. So what? I'm not even saying that they should have gotten specifically married, but to show Rory's growth and having a future and paving her own path, as opposed to eventually we see her just follow kind of the path of Lorelai. It just would have been nice to see her be more of her own person. And in the reboot, super not a fan. Once again, we're cheating. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? There is a debate whether or not Logan cheated on Rory when they like had their breakup, but if he truly thought they were broken up, he was trying to like cope with that, again, not in a healthy way. I mean, there's just so many sides to all these stories. I don't think there's any side to the story of, once again, he's engaged and Rory's cheating. What the heck, girl? What are you doing? Also, I totally think he's the baby daddy, because if definitely not Paul. And if it's the Wookiee, I just riot. Like, I've said that before. That's my stance. Period. At the end, I would just riot. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Also, I guess technically there's Paul in the reboot, but Paul deserved better, in my opinion. You don't just ignore somebody for forever. There's no character development for that guy. There's a Wookiee. It's just, like, do you even rewatch that when you watch the series? Like, I'll, like, cry at the end of the series and then just like start it over because season 1 is so much better. Like, I'm not going into the reboot. Like, I've gotten stronger opinions on this the more that like we've talked about it, but Rory's guys in the reboot just like trash. I guess I'm like team Logan if not for the reboot. With the reboot, Jess is way better. Dean, trash. Paul, feel bad for the guy. Tristan, Chad Michael Murray, wasn't even there. So I wish they'd given his character more character development. Also, I heard an interview with Milo that he said that he wanted Jess to die. He wanted like that to be the ending of Jess. Not like, I don't even think like in the reboot. I think like when they were filming the series, he wanted Jess like, instead of just like running off to no man's land, I think in like the season 3 type of finale when they left him, he wanted Jess to like die in a traumatic car accident. If they had done that, I would have been so mad. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm excited to know what team you're on. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the comment section. Bye.